been doing this job for about 23 years, licensed to practice in both jurisdictions, and listed on the American Embassy website as a legal service provider, which would mean that the kinds of arguments that come up, he probably knows more about those arguments than anybody else as well. We're privileged to have him to join us this morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Great to see you, and thank you so much for your time this morning.
You are welcome. It's a very early morning here in New York, but I hope we can have a nice conversation.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for joining. As a Ghanaian and as a lawyer as well, tell me your impressions so far about what has been going on with Donald's initiatives.
It feels like deja vu, but this one on a scale of 2.0 because we practiced through Donald Trump's first administration, and we have a second one which is more lethal than the first one. I would say that the fear among the immigrant community is very real because the threat is also very, very real. It has been just 1 week since he took over, and I will tell you, I have seen more than 50% increase in the amount of clients who comes to my office.
Right.
I had to work 7 days last week to accommodate just the first batch of people who need immediate help. Right. And it is not only from my side. My colleagues are also going through the same experience. And the courts are also experiencing similar increase in caseload. So it is going to be a very bumpy ride for the next 4 years.
Yeah, Eric, I'm going to have to ask you though. I mean, see, if you're legal, you're not going to be going to see Eric Okyere Darko about anything because your status is okay. Why are people coming to see you, and why this increase in the numbers coming to see you as a practitioner of immigration law?
Those who are legal don't have to come and see me. However, there are a lot of legal immigrants who have illegal family members, and they are worried for their family members. So if a legal person would come, it probably would be to look to see what can I do for my illegal family member. This includes spouses, children, parents, brothers and sisters. So it doesn't only concern illegal immigrants, it's also concern legal immigrants as well. But of course, those who are in real trouble are the illegal immigrants.
Right. Tell me, what are the illegalities? Educate Ghanaians as well. What are the illegalities that we are talking about here? What categories of illegality are we talking about?
Well, it's a laundry list of illegalities if I should start it. Right. I will start from even people who are U.S. citizens. In the past, where computers were not really in use, a lot of people actually were able to become U.S. citizens who had previous immigration violations, and including previous deportation orders. They were able to change their names and were able to obtain green card, and eventually some became citizens. During Trump's first administration, if you have that type of issue, anytime you travel outside and you are coming back in, after they take your biometrics, they pull you aside and they ask you that you have a second immigration file. Do you know about it? You answer yes or no. They pull you aside, think about it so much, and then they let you go. Part of it is that it is very difficult to denaturalize a U.S. citizen. It involves a lot of litigation. So the government was not able to deal with this type of a problem, whether to actually take their citizenship from them or not.
Right.
Now, we don't know whether, and I would say we don't know. As part of his campaign promise, he said he was going to look into people who actually committed fraud in the course of obtaining their citizenship. So those people can become target of enforcement in the future. The second group would be permanent residents. If you're a permanent resident and you have a criminal record after you became a permanent resident, and some of the criminal activities can be subject to deportation, that also exposes that permanent resident also to future or possible enforcement actions. There are also permanent residents who have committed crimes who have been sent back to immigration hearings, who have been ordered deported, and they didn't enforce the deportation.
Right.
There are some specific crimes that will not allow you to stay in the United States even when you're a permanent resident. So those groups are also in fear that because of their past criminal conviction, they can also be subject to enforcement. The third group are those who have been here, have been through the immigration system, and were not successful in their cases. They have prior order of deportation. What happened is that in the United States, when you have been ordered deported, most cases they will not keep you in custody. Even when they keep you in custody after 150 days and they are unable to deport you, we, the lawyers, find a way to file habeas corpus applications and try to get you out. And most of the time, if you cannot deport, you have to release the respondent. So we have a lot of cases where the immigration were not able to deport people who were even in custody, and they have been released to society. And these people would be extremely targeted for enforcement. Then we have those with no criminal record at all, who have they were just unlucky, the applications were denied, and they ended up in deportation, and they couldn't prove their case, and they are still here. There are others who actually have taken voluntary departure, telling the immigration that give me time, I will leave the country and go to my home country, and they still didn't go after 10, 20, even 30 years. Those people also have orders of deportation against them. Right. Then we have those who just crossed the border and have been here illegally after crossing the border. Most of those cases are actually in court now, unless your case, you either fail to appear in court and therefore there is a removal order in absentia against you and you are not even aware of it, or you have a very, you don't have any viable relief application pending with the immigration judge. The fear here is that most of these categories of new arrivals would be subject to expedited removal, where the judges may be given a time frame to finish their cases. As of today, I have hearings scheduled for 2028 in some of the cases that I am doing. I believe this practice probably would be challenged or would be stopped down the line when they get rid of the first batch of priorities. The last one would be those who come in as visitors with proper documentation, or as students, or people who actually enter with a visa and they overstay the visa. They become the overstay. When you are an overstay, you are still an illegal immigrant. And once they are able to keep record of those who are in, those who came to visit and were given 6 months to leave and they have not left, they have a way of tracking you if they decide to come after them. So all this group of people that I've enumerated may be subject to enforcement.
Right. In recent times, we've been hearing about ICE raids in certain areas. Educate, again, listeners on ICE, where ICE sits in terms of its powers and whether or not these raids are actually happening.
The answer, whether these raids are actually happening, is yes. It is happening within the New York, New Jersey area. I think 4 days ago, it happened in Newark, New Jersey, in a factory. Currently, there is a big operation going on in Chicago. And when you go down to Texas and other places, yes, it is happening today as I speak right now. These raids are conducted by Immigration and Customs Enforcement. That is actually the acronym for ICE. It's conducted by them, but who are federal agents with the responsibility to enforce removal operations in the United States. Now, these federal agents are not many. So part of what the Trump administration has done is to empower other federal agencies to participate in the raids and also to participate in the enforcement of immigration laws. This is where it gets interesting. Now, they actually can target any facility, meaning any company where they believe that there are people either without documentation working in that environment, or people who have been ordered removed is believed to be working in that environment. They are allowed to enter the business premises to find out if they are in that premises and arrest them. The sad part is that they may not be coming after Kojo, but when they come for Yao and Yao is even not there, they have the right to ask anybody there to show proof of their legal status in the United States. And if you don't have it, then you become a collateral damage. They arrest you. And of course, it takes lawyers to find out whether you can be subjected to expedited removal or how to get you out of jail. So even if you have even a good case not to be part of the raid, you become a collateral damage, and that is happening. They also can come to your house because a lot of people who have removal orders, of course, under the immigration law, you are supposed to inform immigration within 7 days of moving or changing your address. So they have addresses for people who have orders of deportation. Yes, some don't update it, but you know, when you are dealing with Uncle Sam, they have a lot of ways of knowing where you are.
All right, now let's home in a little bit on the Ghanaian group. Firstly, I'm assuming that this would be the majority of your clients, but I'm not saying that you're in New York. It's a fairly good mix. What are the dangers that you see facing Ghanaians, and what are the majority of those kinds of cases that you are working on?
Well, thank God, knock on wood, I will have to say that I'm not afraid for most of my clients. I would say that probably if there is a few with previous criminal background that may be subject to enforcement. And of course, I am worried for them. Whenever you hear somebody has a previous conviction, your mind sets to something bad right away. But, you know, some people actually convicted on a very, I would say, innocent crime sometimes, and it end up being an immigration violation. So I am worried for people like that. As we all know, most Americans support deportation of violent criminals. Right. So whether the person is your client or not, of course, as a lawyer, you do your work. But when you see the type of crime the person committed and, of course, he's being removed, not everybody deserves the same type of tears. So I would say that majority of Ghanaians actually don't have violent crime background. But there are clients with anytime you commit fraud, for example, to the tune of 10,000 or more, you become subject to deportation proceedings. And so there are young ones who have come to the United States, who got themselves involved in one of these internet fraud and stuff like that, who have been convicted, and those kids or those individuals will definitely have a hard time to stay in the United States. I practice in all the 50 states because immigration is federal law, and federal law you can practice in all the states. I am worried for everybody who one has a previous order of deportation and has no relief application or has no pathway to stay off deportation or removal when they are picked up. You see, the fact that you have an order of removal doesn't mean that when they pick you, lawyers can't do anything about it. But when you have a very weak case for stay of removal, it makes the work very difficult and likelihood of your removal.
Right. Now, again, I'm just going to go back to ICE and its powers now. With this kind of almost accelerated process that's going on, will lawyers get the chance to put in a proper defense? We're rushing hearings and things like that. Will you get the chance to do your job?
The answer is definitely yes. You know that we have the adage that when you have emergency cases, you work extra hours and you respond to it. The question is, would the system give your client a fair chance? That is where the problem is. There has been instances where you have a stay of removal order pending before a judge, and the judge doesn't grant it before ICE removes the individual. In the past, it has happened to me before, where my client was in jail. I have filed an application for stay of removal, and the judge did not make a decision. The ICE were able to remove the person before the judge made a decision on it. That is worrisome. And especially when the volume is that high, the tendency that you may not have a judge to look at your case right away in order to apply for the stay of removal becomes a rare threat. Secondly, there were pro bono programs where the federal government paid some lawyers to defend respondents who are in ICE custody and immigration proceedings. Donald Trump ended the program just yesterday, that any lawyer working on a pro bono case who is being paid by the federal government has to stop work and stop work immediately. So those clients who were getting these benefits would definitely be without lawyers. And if they are unable to pay private attorneys like myself, there are cases maybe that may end up being deported. For Ghanaians, I would say that I am worried for them, but the immediate target currently is to go for people with serious criminal record.
Right.
However, it's a process. It's like a train. We have the first car, the second car, the third car. And if you say that because I'm sitting on the third or the fourth car, so it will never get to the destination, you are lying to yourself. We don't know when it will get to your turn, but once it is moving from one car to the other, you have to prepare your mind and you have to prepare yourself that you may end up in the same train.
Right. I'm going to move away from your legal stuff for just a moment and ask, you're resident there with this kind of activity that's going on. And I'm speaking now to any sort of attitudinal change between the visitor, the foreigner, and the ordinary working American. Is there any xenophobia creeping in? Is there any sense of them and us and things like that? Are you, in your day-to-day, are you seeing any of that?
Thank God New York is actually considered as it is a safe haven for immigrants. I live in New Jersey. New Jersey is also definitely a safe haven for immigrants. And the community do appreciate the diversity that immigration and immigrants bring to the cities. So it is not very clear here when you step out to see that somebody will look at you with a different eye, that you are an immigrant or you are not. In fact, I would say that a lot of the citizens within the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area are rather upset with what is happening because we actually, we have people who are afraid to come out. We have people whom we depend on, for example, my landscaping person, people removing snow, people who are doing maintenance work in houses and stuff like that. A lot of them are either the Hispanic artisans or the Jamaican artisans. And I understand some are very fearful and have refused to go to work. I did speak to a friend of mine who is in Texas, who has a construction company. Yesterday, he told me that half of his workers did not show up because, of course, obvious reasons. They don't have what they need, and so they are scared to come out. In other states where it's not a sanctuary city, that is where this type of division between resident and immigrant is becoming so apparent, where the citizens look at immigrants as people who have taken our jobs, I believe they will be subject to this type of threats where citizens may end up reporting on them or trying to alert ICE agents to different locations. So in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Ghanaians here are a little bit safe, though apprehensive, but in other non-sanctuary city states, it may be worse.
Right. Now, it seems to me that certain governors and certain other key lawmakers and the rest are against this or against this actual policy. Now, there's talk about just trying to get Donald Trump to think about a second amnesty and then taking it from there. Tell us a bit more about that.
I'll tell you one thing, that among all the bad stuff that Donald Trump is doing, one of the executive orders that he passed is to take away the requirement for proof of COVID vaccination and when you are applying for your permanent resident. So now you don't need to show proof of COVID. There were a lot of people who did not want to take the vaccine. They thought that the vaccine was going to make them sick or something else, and they were refusing to vaccinate. And because of that, they couldn't get their green cards. But now that policy is over. I would also say that during Trump's first term, he actually gave amnesties to people from Liberia. It's a very quiet program. A lot of people don't talk about it, but he actually gave an amnesty to people from Liberia. So I believe that by the time he cleaned up the system, of course, we cannot deport 11 million people.
Right.
There may be a form of immigration reform which may end up giving something to those who will be left behind. It's a speculative thinking. I am just hopeful that he will do that, because probably there will be fewer immigrants to benefit from that program than it is now. That being said, there are a lot of relief applications still available to immigrants, and I would encourage everyone to speak to their lawyers to find out their circumstances to see if something can be done currently under the law. When you have a pending application or a pending relief program for you, ICE will not be able to deport you because you have a viable pathway to solving your problem. Some have qualified for benefits. They don't know. So it's a good time to speak to your immigration attorney at this moment.
The question came up about birthright, what is it called? Birthright citizenship. And the question about whether it was legal for Donald Trump to go ahead and do what he was doing, which was trying to say that the fact that you were born here doesn't make you a U.S. citizen. Where do you see that going? I want you to speculate a bit. I know because you're not a judge, but what are your thoughts as a legal brain?
The birthright citizenship is enshrined in the U.S. Constitution. There is no way the president by himself can use executive orders to take away that constitutional rights of American citizens. 2, it has already been blocked by one federal court judge. There is an injunction already. And it's not just that case. There's more than 28 states have filed actions challenging the executive order. So as it is now, the executive order is on hold. There's an injunction against the executive orders. And I am strongly of the opinion that you cannot take away the constitutional rights of U.S. citizens. At the end of the day, it is a bravado to show to the world that I'm doing something about immigration, and so I'm taking away all the rights even guaranteed by the Constitution. The administration will not win on that agreement.
Now, educate everybody a little bit about this ability on the part of a state to object to an instruction from the president. I mean, not all of us get it, Okay, so basically the instruction goes out and from as an executive order, and then the states do what?
So in the United States we have state rights and federal government rights. We have state government and federal government. The state government has powers to enforce laws, just as the federal government also has powers to enforce laws. However, there are some type of activities that is technically reserved for the state government. For example, the power to police your community is reserved to the states. So police officers are hired either locally or by the state. We don't have federal police officers policing states. So if a state government decides not to use its police force to enforce federal government programs, they have the right to do that. So that is why the federal government may give a policy and the state may choose not to follow it. But if the federal government sends their agents to the state to enforce the policy, the state cannot prevent them from enforcing that policy. So I'll use New York as an example. As New York decides that our police officers will not ask anybody who is arrested their immigration status. It is not our job. It is the federal government responsibility to find out who is illegal and who is not. So if an immigrant is arrested by the state police, you are processed, you end up in jail. The federal agencies have the right to review the records of those who have been arrested and find out if these individuals are legal or not. When they are illegal, they place a detainer on them and says that once you are done with the criminal matter, we want to pick this individual up. So there have been instances where you finish your criminal matter in the state court, and the day you are supposed to be released, you see ICE agents there to take custody of you from the state or from the prisons. That is how it operates. So the state has the power not to follow some of the rules that the federal government has asked them, especially if they are using their resources to enforce it. But they cannot prevent the federal government from coming in to do the job themselves.
With these situations and the experience of your friend that you spoke to with half his staff not coming to work and things like that, I mean, again, I'm asking you to speculate a little bit because this is not a legal question. Do you expect pushback finally from businesses to their state administrations to sort of keep the state safe from the predations of ICE?
I will tell you, it is not only even the state. We have been.
We've lost the audio. Unfortunately.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you back again. You're back now. Go ahead.
All right. Okay. So I would say that it is not only and states that are Republican states would have experienced the effect of the enforcement and will be pushing back. Currently, our information is that when you go to the farms were mostly being plowed by the people from Mexico and the Hispanic countries. Half of them are unable to go to work, and the farmers will be suffering very soon because they rely on this labor to supply food to the supermarkets of the United States. You go to the animal farms as well, a lot of the cow, the piggery, the poultry are being managed by immigrants. It is the immigrant workers who do most of the menial job that Americans would not do. And they are already complaining that there are people, immigrants are not showing up. They are looking for locals and Americans to come and do the job, and they are not also showing up. So I believe businesses will push back, and they will push back very fast. Let the enforcement action continue, and very soon you'll see that the grocery shops and the supermarkets in the United States is going to change. Immigrants do a lot for this country.
In international law, there are certain obligations on the part of a country, even a Donald Trump America, when it comes to mass deportations and things like that. Is there any way that the international community can apply any sort of pressure to this particular instruction?
My brother, if you look for a country that does not respect international law, that is United States. I live in it. Even when you go to court and you quote international law, the judges just look at you and laugh. They have no respect for international law, and you and me know. Even we have the United Nations right here in New York. They still don't respect the UN. So I don't believe that international law would play any major role in this activity. Two, if you want to see how international law will play out, look at what happened with Colombia. Colombia decided to refuse to accept 2 flights that had immigrants being deported to their country. Donald Trump decided that I am going to retaliate and slap Colombia with 25% tariffs. Colombia also decided that, well, I'm also going to slap you with the same tariffs, slap US also with 25%. Trump comes back and says that, okay, after the 25, in a few weeks, I'll increase it to 50. By the time we say Jack, Colombia has thrown in the towel and says, we will abide by all your terms. And Donald Trump said, okay, if you abide by all the terms, then
I remove the tariffs.
The tariffs is off the table. It's a very bad precedent, I'm telling you. This is how he's going to handle the rest of the world. If you refuse, they will just use their bully powers to bully you. And I doubt if anybody can stand up to America when it comes to stuff like that. So I would not seek refuge from international law. They don't just respect it.
Okay. Before I let you go, educate Ghanaians, if you don't mind, on what is the process. So I've been arrested. I've overstayed. I'm sent to a detention center, and then I get on a plane. Am I accompanied back to Ghana? I mean, who pays for my flight? All those things. Please educate us through that part of the process.
All right. So we don't have a process where somebody will just be arrested and sent to jail, and then you are on your way to the plane. That is not how it works. It happens here. When you are arrested, there's still judicial process. You have the right to due process, which involves going to be in front of an immigration judge or an administrative procedure where ICE officers decides that we have conducted due diligence and you are not subject to any due process. Ideally, you are arrested, you are kept in a detention facility, you retain a lawyer. You are also processed and issued with a document called notice to appear. This notice to appear would basically looks like a charge sheet to charge you with whatever immigration violations you have committed and ask you to prove why you should not be deported. So your lawyer will look at this notice to appear and plead to the charges. Then, if you have any type of relief application, you have the right to file those relief applications before the judge. The judge will sit on your case, and then a hearing will be scheduled to decide whether you qualify for the relief application that you have filed, be it asylum, be it cancellation of removal. There are a series of relief applications that you can file. If you lose your case with the immigration judge, you have a right to appeal. I have appeal cases pending, some for years, until the Board of Immigration Appeals rule on your case, you are still legal to stay in the United States. If the BIA refuses or deny your appeal, you have the right to go to federal court to appeal again. So it is not just, I have been arrested and I've been sent away. It has a long process to go through.
Right.
And the fear is that he is going to shorten this process in order to expedite the deportations. Or some people may not have access to lawyers who will be able to do this process for them. And therefore, they may end up being deported by signing to agree that, okay, you can send me away. The next question you ask is, who paid for it? It is the government of the United States that buys your tickets. There are a few instances where I have been able to buy tickets for clients who are being deported. They choose that, I want to buy my own tickets. I will give a typical example as Hajia Fourier, for example. Recently, I believe you read that her lawyers have written to immigration asking that they should release her passport and that she wants to buy her own ticket after she's finished serving her sentence. When the government is buying your ticket, it takes a long time for the process to go through. So there have been cases where we work together with ICE. If your client is facing pure removal and there's no turning back, we can assist, buy the ticket, give it to the ICE people for them to escort the individual to the airport, or sometimes they sit with them in the plane until they get to their final destination.
Right. So like somebody like you just mentioned, Hajia for real, in her case, she's buying a ticket to where? To Ghana or she's going, what is it? I don't understand.
Well, I'm sure there's going to be expedited hearing for her, which would confirm which country she should be deported to. I don't know the citizenship she's holding, but if she's holding a Ghanaian citizenship or any other places, there are people with two citizenship, so the other would be the alternative. So you are deported to Ghana, alternative to Lebanon, or whatever it is. And if you have the right to return to Ghana, that is where you buy your ticket. So that is how it usually happens.
Right. So you're saying that a sentence that is a drug fraud, whatever it is, it can be suspended if you decide to leave the country early? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's not. You have to finish the criminal sentence before immigration kicks in.
Right.
So immigration detention is in addition to the criminal detention.
Right. So you're going to go to prison, and then after that you'll be asked to leave the country.
Yes.
Right.
So you go to prison, and after your sentence, after you serve your time in prison, you are transferred to ICE custody.
Right.
Which they don't call it prison, they call it detention. But it's the same.
Brilliant. Eric Okyere Darko, thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's been brilliant having you on. The education has been immense. So before I let you go, I know you're in your season now with all these cases that are coming before you. Any final word of education that you want to share with us before I let you go?
Well, I only want to speak to those who have family members who are facing removal proceedings in the United States. First, do not hide yourself thinking that the problem will go away. There have been instances where respondents, individuals get letters from immigration and they just shred it, thinking that by shredding it, you have shredded your problem. It doesn't go away. So it will be a good time now to speak to a lawyer to look into your case for you. Two, I would also advise some individuals with some type of conviction and also final order of deportation that save your money and make preparation to come home. Because if you are within the violent criminal group or the group of individuals who I would say they have no mercy before the eye of the law, then it is better you actually accept the reality that it is going to be my intent to go home. Right. And so if you are misusing your money, you have to find a good way of saving it. Three, I would say those who are here who don't have any deportation orders, but know that they have violated their immigration status, it will be also a good time to speak to an immigration lawyer to find out what can you do about your situation. And finally, please don't go to places where you think it is not necessary, because they will target where people have congregate. So they will target, they believe that the churches are hiding immigrants, and now churches and schools are no longer off limits. If you know you have an order of deportation against you, please, when you go to the Pentecost church and you pray and pray and pray, by the time you get out, they are waiting for you to pick you up. So you limit your engagement, especially where you believe that you may be, there may be suspicion around your immigration status. That would be the advice I would give to people.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for waking up such an early hour in the morning, and we believe we'll be touching base with you in the coming days as things progress in your country. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure.
Excellent. Immigration lawyer Eric Okyere Darko. We've been speaking to him from the United States, where he is at the moment. He made the point of saying that he has clients across the 50 states, and so even though he's based in New York, and of course the cases come to him based on possibly recommendation and things like that. Not as fearful as many of us have been making the situation out to be in Ghana. And it's something where we have to perhaps take the best advice from people who are in the driving seat. Don't be going to places of mass association that are being targeted, the churches and things, especially if you know that there are possible orders against you or you're in appeal. Just maintain a careful discipline until matters are brought under control a little bit. There will be pushback, he says, and it's coming from certain states already, and it will continue. This is a Sassy Breakfast Show. It's 9:01. Kojo, this razzmatazz is not an individual's idea, says Samuel Ofo.